I've owned the Fringe Sport Dane functional trainer for a year and a half. Here's what actually holds up and what doesn't. In today's video, I'm gonna be talking about the pros and cons of this beautiful machine right behind me and the fatal flaw that comes with this piece of equipment, but how I feel like I've actually solved that fatal flaw. And we're gonna talk about whether I'd buy this piece of equipment again. What's up everyone? My name is Dylan. This is Plates and Profits, where I help you build your home gym for less. If that sounds like it might be interesting to you, consider subscribing. Big disclaimer before we jump into the full video. This is the Dane 1.0. They released the Dane 2.0 almost 8 months after the release of the 1.0 with some upgrades. Let's go ahead and dive into today's video and the review of the Dane. So what is the Dane and who is it for? Functional trainers were the real hot commodity, I would say, of gym equipment for 2025, maybe even 2024 as well. And the Dane is a 3x3 functional trainer. It's got two 160-pound weight stacks. And the biggest selling point for me with the Dane is it has that 1-to-1 ratio, meaning when you're pulling that 160 pounds, you are actually getting 160 pounds. So with the functional trainer, I wanted something where when I'm doing lat pull downs and rows, primarily those two exercises, you do start getting pretty heavy on those movements. And I didn't want to have to be adding a weight pin or anything like that. Well, hopefully one day I'll get past 160 and then I will be adding a weight pin. But until that day, I want to be using my functional trainer without having banana clips up top, like with the Aries, and without dropping like $7 like the Rogue one. Maybe one day, maybe if this channel blows up, I'll be buying the Rogue functional trainer. One can dream, right? But essentially, I wanted to be able to harness all the power of that 160 pounds rather than most functional trainers come with that 2-to-1 ratio. There are some downsides to that. We'll get into that as we go a little further into the video. But who is this piece of equipment for? I would say it's someone who wants to have a home gym without making any compromises. What I mean by that is prior to this, I had a 3x3 squat rack. And it was awesome having a squat rack in the house. But on just about every single day, push day, pull day, leg day, there was always a movement where I was having to make substitutions. For instance, for tricep row push downs, I was never able to do that. For cable flies, I was always having to use dumbbells. So this piece of equipment is for someone who doesn't want to make compromises, who wants to basically be able to do everything they would normally do at their commercial gym inside of their own home. So why did I buy this piece of equipment? At the time, I was really debating between the Rep Aries and the Rogue functional trainer was being teased, but the price point for me was just too much to really justify the difference. So the big selling point for me was that 1-to-1 ratio, having 160-pound cable stacks. That's what tipped the scales for me personally. And pricing it out, it was almost a $2,000 difference. We are going to dive right into the build quality and durability, and this is also going to be our cons section. I feel like most videos start with the pros. I'm starting with the cons because the biggest con here was almost a deal breaker for me. From a build quality standpoint, it is a fantastically built machine. Setting it up was fairly seamless. There is a video where Fringe talks you through how to set it up, which we found about 3/4 of the way through the setup, unfortunately. Before that, we were following, I think it was 3 pages of instructions, and you're trying to look through. It felt like building IKEA furniture almost. Once we found that video, I was like, damn, this would have been really nice to have. There were some blemishes on my clear coat. I never even bothered reaching out to Fringe because all in all, I think it is a beautiful rack. I think it looks awesome. Every time I walk into my home gym in the morning, I get this like satisfying feeling. I'm like, damn, that is a good looking rack. Nice set of hooters you got there. If you've seen any videos on the Dane, you knew this was probably coming, but the biggest issue that I found with the Dane was the starting weight is listed at 10 pounds. However, because of that 1-to-1 ratio and something with the weight plates, it's not actually 10 pounds. It feels quite heavy to the point where doing things like a single arm lateral raise, I couldn't do it. I was having to really like jerk the weight up completely, where the whole idea of a functional trainer is you want to be able to do moves. Things like shoulder external rotations, a lot of prehab exercises were just impossible. Also, I have a 74-year-old mom who lives in a casita in my backyard. And the whole idea, I was like, maybe she can start using this, as she's aging, do some functional strength training, and that will really help her. And it made it to where it was impossible for her to even consider. When they released the 2.0, I was very jealous. They fixed the starting weight issue. I almost felt like a test guinea pig, to be completely honest. I reached out to Fringe to see if they were offering any upgrades for their 1.0 kit to see if we could fix that starting weight, because to me it didn't seem like it should be too difficult to get a smaller weight plate at the top like they did with that 2.0 version. Unfortunately, Fringe Sport let me know that they were planning on doing it in the summer. The summer came and passed, and I followed up, and then they said they're still working on it. And this was probably almost a year ago now, and I never heard from Fringe Sport again regarding the 1.0 upgrade kit, which is really disappointing. I do want to note that I have had several other interactions with Fringe Sport regarding their customer service, and it is top tier. So it's just disappointing that they aren't thinking about the 1.0 customers. And I know we bought it, so I have mixed feelings about it. This is a crucial point. Without a different starting weight, I think it's a big demerit on this entire machine. I think it makes it, again, not functional for a lot of exercises, especially if you're someone who's a beginner or like my mom who's a little older. It just makes it not functional for them. However, in pops a company called Gym Pack Camway. They sell pieces of gym equipment. I'm going to link this in the description, but they had a smaller 10-pound starter weight, which I purchased, fairly seamless to install. If you'd like to see a video on that, I can do my best to do a quick breakdown video. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. Once we got these correct starting weights, it's made a world of a difference. It doesn't come without a few minor quirks and inconveniences. Where the poles insert, there's some play there, and it doesn't really impact it most of the time. There's a few times where I'm doing lighter movements like those lateral raises where the pole will hit the side and won't go in. Not a big deal, and it doesn't happen often enough to where it's really annoying. And having the lighter starting weight, again, it's a game changer. It's made a world of a difference in being able to utilize this machine for several more exercises. If you're curious, these two plates cost 66 bucks with shipping. It was $88. If you have a Dane 1.0 and you're hearing me and you're like, oh my God, I need to get that, check them out. It's worth it. As far as other big cons with this, you can almost look to what the Dane 2.0 upgraded as far as cons. And one of the things, actually, they made the weight stack quite a bit shorter. Rather, this weight stack goes quite a bit taller, which gives you, I think, about 5 to 6 more inches of cable length. Now, to be completely honest, I've had zero issues with hitting the cable length because you're using that 1-to-1 ratio. You don't have as much cable travel. And I can do every single movement that I personally do in my training plans with no issues. So that is not going to fall into the con category for me. Where I will put into the con category is when it comes to attachments. Now, if you were buying this machine, probably one of the items that you wanted to get was a lat pull down seat. I actually purchased the Fringe Sport lat pull down seat when I bought the functional trainer because of that exact reason. I was excited to do lat pull downs in my gym. However, that Fringe Sport seat, firstly, the insertion point for the mag pin is really hard. You're clumsily putting it where the cables are. It makes it really uncomfortable. Secondly, that Fringe Sport lat pull down seat has quite a bit of play to it. It doesn't have anything to tighten it down. So it kind of wobbles as you're doing lat pull downs. It also doesn't sit very low where you couldn't really get a full stretch. So this con is not necessarily regarding the Fringe Sport Dane itself, but more their lat pull down seat attachment. And this is where I'm gonna make a big recommendation if you do buy this and you're planning on doing lat pull downs, to purchase the Rep Pegasus attachment. For a few different reasons here. Where you're putting the mag pin is actually on the side rather than having to mess with the pulleys. It also has a knurled handle, because of course it's knurled, to tighten the seat down even more, so there's literally no play with the seat. You can also adjust it to where it sits a little lower. And when I have this seat now, I get full extension on my lat pull downs with no problem. For reference, I'm 5'10 and a half, we'll say 5'11 on a good day, and I can get a full extension on this. So again, one of the major cons here we are solving the issue for. Though the Rep Pegasus seat is almost $400, so I guess, hey, how do we solve problems? More money solves problems. With that being said, this is a pretty short con list, and we're gonna dive into the pros of this piece of equipment now. And this is going to be quite a long list. First and foremost, let's talk about the value of this. This piece of equipment is quite a bit cheaper than most of the alternatives here. And Fringe usually throws in a bunch of free attachments with it. Now, because I got the Dane 1.0, I actually got the honeycomb pegboard included, which is awesome. I can't stress enough if you're debating which attachments you should get to get that honeycomb pegboard. It makes a huge difference. And then if you're like me, my home gym is 144 square feet. I do not have a lot of space in here. And one of the things I was really excited about was buying some weight horns to put on the squat rack, which I've done. All my weights go there now rather than a weight tree in my gym. Anything to save a little more square footage makes a huge difference for me. And I take advantage of every square inch of the Fringe Sport. It has a bottom 3x3 tube that goes here. That's where I keep my rep Pegasus seat. And then I also have some dip handles that I keep there. The dip handles do take up quite a bit of space. Because of this, I put my spotter arms up on the side of the Dane here, which works really well. But just from a space saving standpoint, it's awesome how much I have packed onto this functional trainer, taking up very little space in my home gym, leaving, I don't want to say a lot of floor space because there's just not a lot of floor space to begin with, but as much floor space as possible while packing a lot in a small package. Some additional pros with this machine is just the general feel when you're using it. I think everything's really smooth. I haven't been to a commercial gym in probably over 5-6 years now, but I think the cables travel smoother than any of the gyms that I've been to. I've gone to LA Fitness, Gold's Gym, Lifetime Fitness, and as far as quality goes, this is comparable to any of them and honestly feels better than most of them. And a lot of that is me being bougie and buying nice handles and things like that feel better than the commercial gyms. But I think it does say something that I don't notice it being, rough or not smooth while doing movements. And as I kind of touched on, that lower cable travel has never bothered me. Not when I'm doing flies, not when I'm doing lat pull downs, not when I'm doing wood chops. Anything. I'm never bumping into the top of that. So if you're doing really functional movements and jumping around like crazy, maybe it will start to hit the top for you. Or if you're someone who's over 6 feet, you might start running into issues. Those are some things to consider if you're considering buying this rack. So let's talk about how much I actually use this machine. I'm a newer father. I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to try to beat my son before he's awake. Beat my son before he's awake. I need to rephrase that. I try to wake up before my son so I can work out. I try to wake up before my son so I can get my workout in. And every single day, I do a 6-day-a-week split where I'm doing push-pull legs. Every single workout, I am doing something on this functional trainer. And again, who is this machine for? It's someone who doesn't want to make compromises and feel like they're missing out on things at their commercial gym, but being at their home to do it instead. I'm saving tons of time every morning and able to spend more time with my son, which I think you can't really put a price tag on. So that's how I'm justifying spending almost, $3 grand on a piece of gym equipment. Is that dude math, or does that make sense to you too? I've seen this rack pop up a few times secondhand, and let's talk about should you buy it? For instance, I saw it pop up here for $2,000. It also came with a complete Olympic weight set and I think some dumbbells too. He also mentioned he would help take it down. That's probably the biggest thing that I would take into account, is taking this rack apart is kind of a pain in the butt. So you might just rather order it new and get it sent to you. But if you find a good enough deal, I would not hesitate to, snag it and go grab one, especially if people are including weight sets, saying they'll help take it down. If you find a deal like that, don't hesitate, go pick it up. Order that smaller adder plate on the top, fix it up, and then you have an awesome functional trainer. Let's talk about the alternatives to consider here. And a lot of it does come down to budget. I think if you have the budget, just send it. Buy that Rogue functional trainer. I think Rogue's quality is tough to beat. And my dream would to have the Rogue with the drop-in belt squat Rhino. That's another thing. As a dad, I've barbell squatted less and less. I just don't have time to warm up to, get to the weight that I'm working with and then do full workouts. So belt squats have been awesome. And having the Rogue Rhino drop in would be so cool. I think I priced it out and I think it was over $8,000, which again, maybe if my YouTube channel blows up, you guys should subscribe and then I'll be able to buy that. Then I can give you a review on that functional trainer instead. So if budget is a concern, I really don't think you can go wrong with this Fringe Sport Dane, especially the 2.0. I know they're coming out with a Super Dane as well. And Fringe customer service is generally awesome. I know I covered a gripe earlier with them, but I do want to give a shout out. When I first ordered this Dane, they had a huge sale relatively soon after. like 20% off. I emailed and asked if there was any way I could get, that discount applied to my pre-order, because it was a pre-order for the Dane at the time. And they said they couldn't do that, but they'll credit me in gift cards the amount. It was like $450 worth of gift cards that I got from Fringe Sport. So again, their customer service is generally awesome. So you can't go wrong from purchasing and supporting a company like that. I also think the Rep Aries is a fantastic kind of middle ground. If you don't want to spend the $8,000 that the Rogue functional trainer is, but you do want to be a little more functional with your movements, you don't want to risk the cable travel, you're over 6 feet tall, then get that Rep Aries. I think you can't go wrong with that piece of equipment. There's tons of reviews talking about how fantastic it is. And I know there's several other brands that I'm leaving out here. Those are kind of, to me, the 3 heavy hitters and probably most popular in the space right now. And if I were putting the Fringe Sport and Rep head to head, I think Fringe is gonna take the cake. I mean, it took the cake for me. That's what I ended up purchasing. But between the price difference and also the 1-to-1 ratio, I think the value is just much higher on the Fringe Sport rack. So that's gonna be my recommendation. If budget is not your concern, go get Rogue stuff. I see people in the home gym equipment community space on Facebook. I don't know what they do, but some people have literally like 2,000 square foot barns with like 2 stories of gym equipment. What do y'all do? I need to get whatever jobs they have. Our final verdict here, and if you can't tell, I really love this piece of equipment. It's one of my favorite things in my home gym. I can't give it a strong recommendation enough, especially because now the Dane 2.0 solved a lot of the issues that the Dane 1.0 had. But like I said, if you see it secondhand, I wouldn't hesitate to buy it and do the simple fix of ordering the new adder plate on the top. Maybe Fringe Sport will one day come out with that upgrade kit that is, almost a year and a half overdue now. So I think you should buy this rack. If you're tired of going to commercial gyms, waiting for pieces of equipment, maybe you're a new parent and you miss doing a lot of the workouts that you could do, spend the money. It's not gonna be one of those things where people talk about you buy cheap, you buy twice, because that was my concern with the Fringe Sport rack. I was worried, that it wouldn't hold up value-wise compared to the other ones, or would feel cheap. And that is not the case at all. This feels like a premium piece of equipment. I personally love that 1-to-1 ratio, and I think you will too. People who shouldn't buy it, probably people over like 6'4" or 5. I know the Fringe Sport 2.0 has a little more cable travel. I mentioned I never run into issues, but I can imagine if you're quite a bit taller, then you'd be running into those issues. And even with that being said, Fringe Sport has released things like the Gibbon arms. They also have some other adder arm that really adds more length for things like stretching on lat pull downs. So Fringe Sport has been really innovative in this space, and I think it's a good company to attach yourself to and start getting their equipment. Their customer service usually won't let you down. So I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up here. Go ahead and buy the Dane. You won't regret it. You'll be happy and satisfied with that purchase. Thank you everyone for tuning into this video. Let me know if you have a functional trainer, if you have regrets about purchasing it, maybe you wish to purchase a different one. Let me know in the comments. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, this channel is all about helping you build your home gym, maybe on a budget. I appreciate everyone who's watching and subscribing to the channel. It really does make me smile anytime I see a new subscriber. So thank you so much for that. I'm gonna be continuing to post lots of videos. I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.